everybody, good morning and welcome to Spruverse, my scale model universe. And the Spitfire from DeAgositini is back on the bench today. And I wanted to do just a, not a long video, but to sort of just bring everybody up to speed with where I am on this build. Today, I've got the fuselage on the bench, and we can see that this is quite an extraordinary piece of engineering. It's a lot of fun. It's an all-wood construction, and it's balsa wood, and it's also laser cut pieces as well. It's all glued together, obviously, with some kind of a wood glue. I'm using my go-to, because I find that what's happening is it's absorbing into the wood very quickly, and I'm getting a really good result with it. It bites very quickly, and it allows me to, yes, with a little bit of clamping, I can just keep going. But I've really enjoyed it. But I thought today it would be fun to sort of just do a little bit of the build construction. Now, I don't know how many people are following along. This is pack 28, and I'm on stage, actually stage 30, let's see, where am I? Stand by here. Well, stage 110. And, you know, it's a lot of collecting, gathering parts and holding them and then going backwards and doing a lot of building. The wings are pretty much there. Now here, as you can see, I've covered most of the wings with the aluminum exterior. There's a couple of pieces where I've got to do a little bit of cleaning up, and where I had gaps I've actually used an aluminum tape, because I intend to paint this aircraft. And interestingly enough, when I've looked at some detailed photos of these planes, there are obviously several machinations of them, several marks of them, and they evolved and changed over time. And you could see some of the differences as they went through their progression of the various different changes and slight variations to them. But one of the interesting things is I noticed that there are some significant overlaps on the actual plane wings, where the two pieces, they don't come together, they actually lap over each other, which I thought was really interesting. And I'm not entirely sure whether that was an issue because of the war, because it certainly doesn't make any sense from an aerodynamic point of view. But these planes were reaching 400 miles an hour, and I don't know if their life expectancy was supposed to be that long. There's a wonderful documentary on Netflix if you get a chance to check it out. It's called Spitfire, and it actually gives you the history of the plane, which is a lot of fun. So what I'm hoping is that certainly over the course of putting this kit together, I'm going to get an opportunity to sort of start to figure out what my paint scheme is going to look like, aging and weathering and that sort of a thing. Because I don't want it to look like it came off the assembly line. That's just not me. I like everything to look a little worn. But anyway, today, what we're focused on actually is the nose of the plane. And the first thing it wanted us to do is it wanted us to make sure that the fuselage, the nose here, was perfectly smooth and ready to take the pieces. And then it's going to ask you to put those pieces on. I've been doing a lot of sanding and tapering to get it ready for its exterior. The nice thing about working with wood, I have to say, is that it's very, very flexible. And so you can carve into it, you can add pieces if you need to, you can take pieces away. You're not entirely doomed if you break something. And I've had a couple of snaps on the wings, nothing on the fuselage, but for the most part it's been really fun. So today's exercise is to install some parts here for the nose. So as I'm following along here, the first thing it wanted me to do was just check to make sure that everything was smooth here and sanded and ready to go. And so I've done that. Then it asked me to do a test fit, and I've done that. And I'm very happy with the results. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to install the nose cap onto the very front of the nose. And To my absolute delight, there is a press fit. There's a couple of knobs here, or pins, in the back of the casting. Sometimes they just slip through holes, but this is a little bit of a pressure fit, so I'm very happy with it. So here we go, my trusty super glue here, and I'm going to give this a generous, just a generous sort of bead of it everywhere. You get quite a bit of absorption, so you do want to make sure that you get pretty good coverage. On goes my part, and push that into place, as we can see I've done here. And that is really nice. Now I can use a couple of clamps just to quickly get myself some adhesion. And I won't have to have these on long, just a minute or so, just to let this snug up. And what you can do if you want to, you can actually put a couple of drops of kicker behind it. Now, something that I've learned from building these kits is where it requires you to use super glue. There are several versions of super glue that you have to use. One is a glue that is simply for wood. I'm using a Titebond version of this, the thin. It's called a wood adhesive. Now what I've noticed is it absorbs into the pores of the balsa, not so much the birch, and this is a mix of birch and balsa. I've been having better luck gluing birch together than I have balsa together. If you're going to do balsa, what you've got to do is essentially just treat this with the thin for a minute or two, let it absorb in and get hard, then you can come back, because otherwise you don't get a great bond. The other challenge I've had is with using super glue and the metal pieces. Sometimes gluing the metal to the wood, you have to be patient. Now I did find that the medium viscosity on the super glue for me is working a lot better than thin or thick, or even the flexible. I've tried all three with mixed results, but the medium CA seems to be doing the best job. The other caution I would have for you is, if you are going to use kicker, don't use kicker on places where you could have delamination of pieces. In other words, if you've got a piece of metal that you're gluing to a piece of wood, do not put any kicker on that surface. Let it dry with clamps and be patient, because sometimes if you get delamination, what you've created essentially is it's just not a smooth surface, so it all has to be sanded down and cleaned up. I learned that the hard way. Okay, so here we go. The nose is on, and it's creating, interestingly enough, some real girth to this thing. So I'm really happy with that. The next piece it wants you to put on is it's called the underside of the nose. That's what it's called. So here we go. Now I have test fitted this, and I had to do some sanding, but it sits over here and it sits flush on this quite beautifully. It just pushes into place. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to just get some glue on this and then push this into place. Now here we go. Just put some on the other side here. Okay, and just a little on the side of the, okay, on goes my part, and then I'm going to push that into place like that, and you'll feel it click, and there it went. So that's pretty good. I'm going to put a little clampage on this, although I don't think I need it, but you know, been having a lot of success doing that, and that's a really nice, that's nice and flush, as we can see here. Very happy with that. So now that's set up, I'm going to be ready to go to the next part. Now, interestingly enough, when you're working with these various different metals on wood, some of the parts have not been perfect, but for the most part, surprisingly, I've had some really positive luck with this kit. It's not something I usually do, and I am looking forward to getting back to some serious plastic, which I'm going to do very soon here. But I thought it would be fun to show you this, primarily because I'm a huge history buff, and this Spitfire is quite special to me. My grandfather synchronized watches for Spitfires during the war. He was a jeweler, amongst other things, and so there is a sort of very distant connection. And obviously, being British myself, my mother and father went through for the war. My father actually was drafted at the end of the war into the King's Royal Rifles. So World War II is definitely something that touched me in a very distant way, and it's always been a subject that has fascinated me. So anyway, the next thing it's asking us to do, and I'll just move that over here, is actually attach this nose, these two nose sections, which will complete the top and the bottom of the engine compartment itself. What I've done is I've done some more sanding here. Everything looks to be pretty good, so I'm relatively happy with it. There's a little bit of warpage here, but nothing for me to worry about. What I do have to worry about is what happens when I attach the top piece of what I'm calling the engine covers. It's calling the engine covers. So if that's not the correct terminology, I apologize, and please correct me. But that's looking pretty good. So I'm relatively happy with that. So I'm going to do a quick test fit here of the underneath of the cowling, just to make sure that I'm good. It looks like on this side I might be a little high, so I'm just going to take a little bit of sandpaper here just to make sure that I'm good, and then I'm going to eyeball this, and that looks pretty good and pretty flush. So I know now that my glue mark is here, so I'll just make a little mark here on the wood, so I know how far I'm supposed to go. And away we go here. We'll get some coverage on this and get this piece glued down. Let's see here. And all the way up to metal there. It's pretty good. Got a little sloppy here, but that's okay. We'll just kind of distribute that a little bit. Okay. We'll drop it on. Take it up to the point here. Eyeball it in, nice and flush. And we'll hold this in place for just a minute or two. Now the underneath of the, this is actually the top of the engine cover, I should say, is a separate piece, and I think the reason for that obviously is if you choose not to glue it down so that you can see the engine in all of its glory. The engine parts are cast pretty well, but they're going to need some help. A lot of dry brushing, perhaps some hoses and some other elements that I can try to incorporate to try and make it look a little more beefy. I haven't really decided yet, because right now I'm still spending an awful lot of time on adding the aluminum to this frame. I've had mixed results, I'd have to say, but having, interestingly enough, owned a DeLorean for several years, taking care of aluminum, an aluminum car, I sort of understand how to take care of aluminum siding, so it's kind of easy. A little bit of WD-40, a very soft scouring pad, and go in the direction of the grain of the metal, and you get some really lovely results. Now, if I was going to leave this as an aluminum piece, which is certainly something you can do, then you could certainly do that and get it all polished up and make sure that it's looking good. I'm going to paint mine because I want it to. As I said, I wanted it to look like plane that's about to go into battle. And talk about real estate issues. This thing is going to be huge when it is finished. I mean, if you just again look at the fuselage here. This is, it has a wingspan, well, not a wingspan, but it has a length of 29 inches. So with the propeller on, I mean, it's massive. And then its wingspan goes out another, well, in total, I would say 4.5 feet. So it's quite a specimen. And if you are just joining me, welcome. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe. I will do a few more of these, but I thought it was fun just to take a few minutes and show you what's on the bench and what I'm building. And I'm going to continue to sort of work my magic on this thing. And we'll do another update in a week or two when I've got a little more done, and we'll do a little more of a show and tell. But I think you should be able to see here that this is going to sit on here. In fact, this is probably dry enough for me to show you very quickly. I don't think I'm going to regret this. We'll be very careful, obviously. But this will sit down on here like this. And yeah, now what I'm noticing is I've got just a little bit of work to do here in terms of just sanding this down, but that's the fun of this thing. I can get this really nice and flush and smooth. I don't want to push on this right now because it's still drying, but you can see it's quite impressive. So anyway, that's it for this update on the Spitfire, the Supermarine from DeAgositini. If you are building this, let me know. Drop me a line. You can reach me at spruverse@gmail.com, or you can just drop a comment on this video and let me know. I love to hear from everybody, and I love to see people's work. It's always fun to see what my fellow modelers are doing. Anyway, until next time, everybody, be well, be safe, build something, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.